Good evening, everyone, or should that be good morning? It's 5:30 in the morning. I'm currently walking towards town on the Derwent Valley Light Railway, or what's left of it. There it is, look. We're off on an adventure today. Ooh, but what could we be doing? Well, first of all, I need to get onto a scooter, an e-scooter, and go into town to get the train. So let's do that. Ah, now, look at this, we're in lovely York Station, having just ridden across town. A town completely empty, sparkling bit with the Christmas lights, it's all very nice. And we've got these stairs. Look at this, lovely York. If you want a little tour of York Station, by the way, then I can recommend one of my pointless perambulations threads. In fact, the most recent pointless perambulations thread, where we had a little explore, but look down here, look, my train is sat waiting on the platform ready to go. It's quite quick, it's only just 1:45 actually, which is good. I'm going to hop on this train and continue our adventures southwards. 6 a.m. train towards London, but where might we be going? Sat on the train here, obviously I have to do an obligatory filming through Werrington Junction, which there's a ground signal. These are the crossovers, which means that we're getting close to the... So interestingly, when I came through these in the HST in the cab at about 85, 90, we're at 125 now in an Azuma, so wait for it. Oh, that'll do it. Yeah, there we go, there's a nice train, was it passing the other direction. Anyway, here we are, Werrington Junction. So here I am at lovely, glorious King's Cross Station. It's one of my favourite arrivals. In fact, it's possibly my favourite arrival into the city because it's just these barrel vaults. The train sheds are just fantastic. I think the trouble with St Pancras is it's so big you don't quite get that vaulted feel, whereas King's Cross is just marvellous. Anyway, I digress. We're here to do a thing, as previously alluded to. But what is that thing? Well, that thing firstly is going to be to hop onto a special train. And at that point I'll be able to reveal all, and we might even have some cameos from some friends. Let's start with the news though first. A thing has happened that I said would happen in Suzhou in China, where they have this I'm doing rabbit ears, trackless tram, which, you know, to your eye is known as a bendy bus. But anyway, so they've got this bendy bus, and they've, you know, it relies on an optical system on using painted lines in the road. And of course, what that has resulted in is the road surface completely disintegrating. And you can see here that these nice pictures show it on its way to, at the moment it's rutting, and the rutting will result, after the first winter, that road surface will just start disintegrating completely. this was always going to be a dreadful design. It was always going to smash the road surface to bits. Just build trams properly, folks. So if we go have a kind of if you really want the kind of the engineering behind why that's happening and how we can avoid it happening and why tracks, rails are, steel on steel is a good thing, then go over to Medium and you can find my Kimshire Autonomous Metro piece where I explain in detail why that is. So that's the funny news. The less funny news, I'm afraid, there's a series of articles or a series of kind of news items this week since the last natter. Firstly, do you remember the Traction Decarbonisation Network strategy? Well, off the back of the integrated rail plan and the utter rail betrayal that represented, government's decided it's going to go hell for leather. So there are leaks via the Telegraph, so kind of, treat those with a pinch of salt, but that Treasury has rejected electrification as a plan. It's rejected the electrification plan. There was a £30 billion proposal to kind of progress conventional electrification across the network, and the Treasury said no. So this government hates railways. What else is in the news? Oh, of course, that's like off the back of the fact that the ORR, the Office of Rail and Road, have published data demonstrating the UK is electrifying less than half the rate needed to decarbonise by 2050. Like, we need to more than double the rate of electrification. Actually, we need to go further than that again. I would argue we should be aiming for 2040, which requires 650 single track kilometres a year, and I think we're currently doing the best part of none. There's like one or two, maybe Midland Main Line might start kicking off again. Anyway, it's pretty poxy. So yeah, not good news. What else? Join your union if you're in the rail. If you're in the rail industry, get unionised because national strikes are coming, folks. The RMT, TSSA, ASLEF are planning to ballot their members, and they're looking at doing some national strikes because government, basically, the Department of Transport, it's not the Department of Transport, Treasury, is telling the industry to find savings of 10% for what? Why? Why does it need to do this? What contrived reason is there for it to need to do this? And as a result, big strikes are coming. So the war between government and the railways is only just starting to hot up. Actually, it's not really started yet because industry is still sort of rolling over and letting government stab it in the heart. So hopefully the industry will take a more aggressive stance, and also hopefully the public will start noticing that this government is actively hostile to things that are important, such as railways. What else? Of course, it's all these cuts and chops. At the same time, of course, government is launching RIS 3. So we've had RIS 2. They're launching the RIS 3 development process for multiple billions of pounds worth of road investment. Wonderful. So if you want to know where the government's priorities lie, well, here you are. And yes, this is because of Treasury. There's a picture of Sunak there in the last one. Yeah. Yes, it's because of Treasury. But actually, it goes deeper than that. This government is just actively hostile to public transport. It clearly is. They talk the talk, but they publish all their nice little shiny documents like decarbonisation plans and all sorts. But actually, they don't care for figs. They're treating us with contempt, and they need to be voted out at the next possible opportunity. So there we go. That was the news. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, I'm in King's Cross. I don't think I've really got much to say other than welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. So here we are pulling out of King's Cross Station on a very bizarre train journey to go and see a thing. I'm joined by some other very nice, friendly people, particularly this man here who's also filming. Who's this?
I'm not nice, I'm not friendly.
it's television's Mr. Tim Dunn. We're in a tunnel, which is what we're doing later. It's what we're doing later. This is a train full of Network Rail engineers and people and councillors and all manner of glitterati who are here to basically have a novelty train journey through a very new piece of infrastructure that we will be the first, we're not the first, the second passenger service going through the Werrington Diveunder, and we're going to go like slow motion through it, stop at Peterborough, the pantograph will come down, we'll go through diesel, through the Werrington Diveunder. It's going to be very weird, but I have no idea how this episode's going to stitch together, but I never do anyway, so they always end up working-ish. It should be fine. Tim, go on.
Aren't we the first like proper passenger train through it? That was a mistake.
Yeah, that one was a mistake. It's alright, you can pop through. That one was a mistake, yes.
So this is the first intended passenger train through it. The other one doesn't really count. So nice try, guys, but next time.
It's very true. This is the first proper passenger train making that journey. There's lots of very important people everywhere. It's not Harris. Anyway, right, I'm going to leave you all in peace and quiet. In fact, no, I'm not, because I'm going to talk in 2 seconds, because that's how editing works. But anyway. So while we're heading northwards, looking at this Thameslink train rushing past us. Oh, it's the train board, nice. Anyway, so over the last sort of few years actually, but certainly since the start of 2020, if anyone's been whizzing up and down the East Coast Main Line, you'll have been noticing some massive civil engineering works going on just north of Peterborough. Here's some footage I did coming southwards. There's some exciting looking stuff, a gap in the ground. And then I think going in the other direction, going northwards, here's me in August 2020, filming going the other way, and clearly, you know, the East Coast Main Line's been split apart, lots of diggers digging a giant hole, you can see some sheep piles there. But if you've been travelling, it's kind of all quite kind of mysterious if you're not sure what's going on. Just a huge amount of civil engineering work. There's some big concrete bits, many rebar, and then a giant hole, and then much more rebar, and then that's that. So, what's been going on? Well, if I bring up a little map, here you can see the East Coast Main Line from Peterborough, kind of on the left, and then on the right, the East Coast Main Line to Doncaster. So that's kind of the right-hand side of the page. It's kind of northwards. I've kind of rotated the world about 90 degrees. And slap bang in the middle here is a junction with the GNGE, the kind of the Great Northern Great Eastern Joint Line, towards Lincoln, and then that in turn splits to Doncaster to join back with the East Coast Main Line. So it's kind of a major freight diversion route, and also up to Immingham and kind of the ports that side as well. So major freight line heading off kind of Spalding's the next station. And so there's the next major station. Anyway, so this is a seriously busy junction. And there are lots of conflicts, which we'll talk about momentarily. But what the physical work is, well, let's have a look, shall we? So here we are, August 2016. You can see the East Coast Main Line in its sort of normal sort of layout. There's the junction there. And what else is going on? Kind of the GNGE. There's this kind of some bridges here and here. You can see, some footbridge here. What other features are there? Oh yeah, giant freight train here making its way, kind of making its point for me, because this is a very busy part of the very, very kind of congested part of the East Coast Main Line. So that's August 2016. Let's jump forwards to September 2019, and you can see many physical things are happening. The East Coast Main Line is still sort of still on its kind of main route here. So you see it's sort of still. Actually, these are the Stamford lines. They still haven't been diverted yet. And then likewise, the East Coast Main Line itself, the fast lines are kind of here. There's sort of three lines there, actually, 2 fast and a slow. And you can see that there's already been some stuff buried in here. There's some major earthworks going on here. Some sort of land take going on. Likewise here, lots of physical work. And you see again down here some earthwork kind of digging going on as well. Jump forwards again. That's the end of 2019. We jump forwards again, and you can see. If I jump back and get rid of all my scribbles, you can see that by this point, there's actually been a diversion. There's been a gap. So the gap created here, kind of a large interval created between the Stamford lines here, the PMJ lines towards Stamford, and the East Coast mainline fast lines going in this direction. You can see if I get rid of that scribbles, jump back and forth, you can see that the interval has been widened. The 10-foot, if you like, has been widened. You can also see new footbridge has gone in here. See the new footbridge? See, it's replaced the old one. Very nice. So it's clearly some major work going on. And you can see the fact that there's kind of additional sort of civil engineering has gone on here, and down you can see sort of additional kind of diversionary works. There's a road crossing that's been, I think the road is open there, they've closed it, they put the diversionary route in for there's some service diversions there. You can see that there's a road that's been kind of diverted here, the railway going through it. So there's all sorts going on. And then if we jump forwards to from May 2022, September 2021, you can see, well, it's basically finished really. You've got a load of you've got this massive civil engineering structure here that's now been constructed. Crikey. Likewise, you've got the connection down, kind of coming in here, connecting up to the GNG. So you've got a new line. You've got a new sort of parallel line that's been built up. So now if we kind of jump back to a schematic, if you like, and wipe this out and have a look at schematic, you can see that we've got these new lines. These kind of extra lines have been added at the at Werrington Junction, providing and the kind of the tracks dive under, as we call it. They dive under, hence why it's called Werrington Diveunder. At Werrington Junction, there is a dive under now, providing a link from the GNG lines onto the East Coast Main Line, or vice versa. So if we kind of flick back, you can see there it is. So that's how they were before, and how they were after. How they were before, and how they were after. You can sort of see the tracks have been split apart, allowing the sort of Stamford lines to sort of pass either side. And then the tracks dive underneath. So essentially, it's a great. Well, it's not essentially. It is a grade separation. Very clever. Very nice. Now, we can have a look at some sort of pictures of construction, because I think it's interesting to have a look at these. So you've got some pretty massive civil engineering already. The sheet piles have gone in. You can see the fact that what's interesting is that this is in line with. If you see, kind of trace this line down here. You can see that this is in line, the very long, straight bit of the East Coast Main Line here, far straighter than the Great Central ever was. Weirdo Great Central people who say the Great Central was built with kind of magisterial straight lines. This is pretty straight from here. Anyway, you can see that there's the dive under takes that precise line, the precise line of the Stamford line, so it kind of disappearing off into the horizon there, which is quite interesting. And this is a nice zoomed out picture. You can see those Stamford lines here. You can see them. Having been diverted away, you can see all those earthworks kind of going on here, sort of drainage diversion works, sort of quite substantial, and then likewise all the civil engineering going on this side as well. You can see all that stuff. You can see the hole that's been dug, and you can see the diversion of those Stamford lines kind of passing either side. And actually, this is a temporary state, because at the moment there's two tracks here passing to the west of the constructed dive under, but actually later on they actually get rid of and lift, and you'll see in the pictures they actually lift the second track, so only one of the tracks goes to the west of the dive under, the other track. So the track going northwards goes west of the dive under, the track going southwards goes east of the dive under. So here's another picture, looking very nice. In fact, this is precisely as I was talking about. You can see at the moment there are two tracks here. And you can see that, but they have laid on top of the bottom ballast. They've laid this additional track, which is going to be which is kind of actually the London or the Peterborough bound Stamford line. So then I think the next picture, if I get rid of my scribbles, the next picture. Oh, also, before I do that, you can see the actual junction that's being. This is Werrington Junction on this side. You can see it. You can see it's quite a slow ladder. It's not an ideal situation. So if we whiz this way, you can see, if I kind of jump back and forth, you can see this track's been tamped. This is what happens this is before and after tamping. You can see here, this track here has now, you can see before and after it gets tamped. Very nice. So it's much nicer and smoother. And also, key thing is over here, over on this side, you can see that this track has now been lifted. So you can see it's been lifted away, removed, because only one track is actually needed. So there's a temporary state as part of the staging of what we call the staging of the works. We kind of divert the Stamford lines that side, and then now that we kind of now that we've kind of finished the physical works and the connections at the south, laid some S&C kind of down out of shot in this direction. There's some S&C being laid, so these can now be instated as they are. That allows the signalling to be sort of set up appropriately and so on. There we go. And then the next picture, I think, so we're at the other side now. So you can see these are the three East Coast Main Line lines. So it's the fast lines there, and then there's a slow line here, which is actually no, it goes this direction, doesn't it? Ignore that. There we are. And then you can see this kind of the physical works going on here. This picture actually is before the previous one, because it's got the two Stamford lines here rather than the Stamford line kind of coming in like this and rejoining. But you can see the kind of excavation works that have gone on. So my video earlier that I took was of all this excavation work. And actually what you have here, you can see this sharp sort of cutting head. This is the box tunnel that's about to be driven. So they actually bored two small, two, might have even been three, kind of 3 meter diameter tunnels with sort of guide rails underneath, kind of without interrupting traffic, kind of underneath the East Coast Main Line, that are then acting to guide the kind of this curved box tunnel as it slid through. And so what actually happened? This next picture, you can see what they did was they excavated. So all this kind of earth, they've closed the East Coast Main Line's now been closed in a kind of, I think it was about a 9-day blockade. East Coast Main Line closed. They've dug out all the work, leaving the OLE above by the look of it, but they've just put sort of protectors on the cables. They dig it all out, drive the box tunnel round, and then kind of connect it all up. And so after they connect it all up, they've driven the box tunnel around, then they kind of lay some tracks through it. In fact, you can hear there's some pleased looking chaps there. Some engineers. There's 66777 riding around. What's quite funny about this is it's riding on top of the rails without them having been tamped. With only the rail, the kind of the track sat on bottom ballast, but actually that's fine. You know, only a light locomotive it can manage that. So there you are. So you can see it's on this rubbling on this wibbly. They'd only be running along here at trundle speed. Another thing to point out is you can see all the drainage and the troughing. So down here, you can see. So if I draw a nice thick yellow line, there we are. You can see all of the. You can quite nicely see all of the drainage. So there's a drainage run, drainage. Along with some kind of random sleepers over there, and you know you can sort and also here the troughing. So also here you can see the troughing, which is carrying all the sort of the signalling and the power, the kind of points heating, or well actually probably not points heating here, but kind of all the stuff for lights, signalling, and so on, all carried in here. Anything that needs power, those also go in this troughing route along the side. There you go. You can see the troughing being laid there and kind of having a nice plot along the drainage, disappearing off into the distance up here. It's all very nice. And then these up here. So this is, firstly, you can see this is pretty tall. It's got nice passive vision for electrification. These are designed that they can have a kind of OLE attached to them, but they're kind of obviously acting as bracing on these very steep walls here. And then the other thing not to forget about is thanks, by the way, to Rigor Mortis for these photos, for taking these photos, which I've nabbed and put on. This photo is also a line of other things you've got to think about, which is the connections. Also, don't worry about the vertical alignment up here. Crikey. It's the fens, folks. This is obviously, so this is a modern kind of flat crossing style kind of double junction. You can see here the S&C. In fact, from the treats that we've got later on with the cam view, we'll show you this in more detail. But yeah, you can see this, the connection onto the Lincoln bound lines here. You can see the connection ready to be once the tracks are attached to them. And then once it's all done, you can see the final state here. So here are the Stamford lines splitting either side. There, very nice. Stamford line splitting, and then you can see the vertical curve here. Actually, you can see quite vividly the vertical curve where it's one grade for the S&C, and then it dips down to drop underneath the East Coast Main Line. You can see the old junction there. But yeah, you can see the Stamford lines whizzing around either side and then disappearing off. There we are, disappearing off on their way when they split from the East Coast Main Line up at Tallington. And then disappear off towards Stamford, and actually that's the line. Services go towards Birmingham that way. And also there's a nice 0 milepost here, which I presume is for I don't know what the ELR is for this bit actually, the engineer's line reference, but there's the 0 milepost for where it starts, and then it'll run round. I presume it gets to about 1.5 miles or something. It's not that far, but there you go. Some nice S&C. Yeah, lovely. Both routed this way. It might not be that most traffic goes down the Diveunder, but the higher track category will, because all the freight will go under the Diveunder. So that kind of is one way to sort of determine what your hand of your switch is. When I talk about the hand, this is the through route here, this is the turnout route, and generally you'd have the majority of traffic you'd line your S&C to be aligned with the through route being to the primary route of traffic. Likewise on the other side, there's your through route and there's your turnout route. Anyway, so there we go. There's the connection. Lovely stuff. Hopefully that's explained what Werrington is. But in a minute, I'll explain why and what the whole point is. So here we are arriving into Peterborough, where we're going to pick up some more people. Obviously, I just filmed the lovely failed hover train for all of your good. Anyway, brief interlude.
It's been an enormously successful cross-industry partnership, bringing together a huge range of industry partners and stakeholders, and we've managed to get the job done together. And the legacy, and I really want to stress this, the legacy that this will leave for our passengers really should not be underestimated by any of us. Network Rail, contractors, suppliers, train freight operators, the Department for Transport, the ORR, Transport Focus. I could go on and on and on, the endless amount of people that have played their part in this being such a successful programme. And we've overcome some significant obstacles, not least a global pandemic. And when I was thinking back the other day over the programme, who knew that we'd forget to put in the risk plan a pandemic, a global pandemic, when we were trying to tackle this enormous programme. Particular thank you as well to all of our passengers who have patiently put up with us while we did the work. King's Cross alone, so that's without Werrington, saw 26 different disruptive events. That's an enormous amount of disruptive events, which again shouldn't be underestimated, just how disruptive that was to all of the travelling public that wants to use the railway during a very difficult time, particularly during the COVID pandemic. I'd also like to mention finally our line-side neighbours, all the residents, businesses and other stakeholders that were affected by the work. A massive thank you to all of you for bearing with us whilst we carried it out.
The Werrington Diveunder is part of the East Coast Upgrade, which is a programme that costing £1.2 billion that's really enabling us to transform services on the East Coast Main Line. You're travelling, of course, on one of the Azuma trains that we introduced into service a couple of years ago, and together with the infrastructure improvements that have been taking place on the East Coast Main Line over the past few years, these trains and this infrastructure is really going to enable us to transform the experience we give our customers by bringing more punctual services, more frequent services, more seats, and overall a far better experience for customers on this premier route. The East Coast Upgrade, of course, has been an extensive programme of engineering works, including new track, upgrades to the power supply, new overhead line, and extra capacity along the route. This time last year we were preparing for the first big intervention at King's Cross, and we're very fortunate that over the first few months of this year, whilst most of the country was in lockdown, the fantastic team of people from across the industry and the supply chain were hard at work delivering this work with minimal disruption to customers. After setting off from Peterborough today, we are going to be taking the route through the Werrington Diveunder. This 11,000 tonne tunnel, 165 metres long, the length of the Eiffel Tower, and taking our journey slowly through that up to Spalding. And at Spalding we're going to turn around, and our driver Chris will do it all the way again on the way back. So really looking forward to taking you all through the Werrington Diveunder project. And a really big thank you not only to those of you who've made today possible by running this special train and providing the fantastic hospitality on board, but of course it's a really big thank you from LNER to all of you who worked on this project and made the Werrington Diveunder a real civil engineering marvel on the East Coast Main Line.
So we're kind of coming up north out of Peterborough here, and it's worth pointing out this project didn't start with all the physical heavy civil engineering going on. Actually, this project involves huge amounts of rerouting of cables, of updates to the overhead line equipment, new masts having to be put in. In fact, the cabling, you could see all the troughing routes being put in. The cabling ran right down to Peterborough Station, potentially beyond, in order to facilitate this project. So there's a huge amount of not just the big ticket civil engineering work, but all the MEP work, all of the sort of electrical work, the overhead line equipment, huge amounts of work. And that's just the physical engineering, not to mention all the planning, all of the timetabling work going on to make sure that the railway could function around this work. It's a huge amount of engineering and planning work going into making this sort of colossal project a reality.
That's Gareth Dennis there, writing free voiceover for my video. Thank you so much.
And here we go, dropping down already, the vertical alignment sort of dropping us away from where the rest of the East Coast Main Line used to be. The new footbridge over the top, signals, you can see some nice sheet piles here as we drop down. Very interesting videos, you can see. Don't worry, I'm going to intersperse this with some of the cab footage that we'll get from LNER. Thanks in advance, LNER. Look at this, here we are. Spraycrete concrete lined wall. The drainage, very important on a dip like this, given that we're in essentially custard geology around here. Just point out the sort of the beams above. These are all passive provision for electrification to be added. We're running on diesel mode at the moment. And here we go, into the tunnel. Into the tunnel proper, in fact, at this point. And it's all very dark, so all we can see is just Tim. There he is. And just like that, it's over again. There we go.
Amazing.
Climbing back up out, just like that. There we go. There's some nice pinned earth because the railway is just the original railway is just above us. Still see the drainage. There's some nice access. Nice graded slope. You don't see earthworks like that on the railway very often. Very nice. No trees in sight. Good.
Gareth,
Yes.
what do you love about the Werrington Diveunder?
I love it because it's bold engineering, and we don't see much of that on our railways these days. So when it does happen, it's quite exciting.
Why is it really important to passengers? Why should they care?
So the trouble with the line through Peterborough, this is double whammy stuff, by the way, folks, because you're getting this on Natter. The challenge is that you've got, particularly Peterborough, you've got trains that have to cross over this complicated ladder of junctions to get over onto this railway line, heading up kind of eastwards off the East Coast Main Line. The trouble with that is that it holds up trains. You've got to leave big gaps in the timetable so that the fast trains whizzing through without stopping don't get held up by these trains crossing across the path of the fast lines. So the Diveunder splits those trains apart, means that the fast trains can get on with their business of whizzing north and south, and the trains heading eastwards don't have to wait for ages for the fast trains to whiz through. So it's unknotting all of these railway lines to allow everything to run nice and smoothly, and ultimately increase capacity on the East Coast Main Line.
So what does that mean for the ordinary person going up and down the line, day to day? It's a lot of money to spend, isn't it?
It is. Well, fundamentally what it means is that you have more seats per hour going in whichever direction you happen to be wanting to go in. But it's not just about long distance services. This is a benefit for the local services that can go not only up and down the East Coast Main Line, but also heading eastwards. And fundamentally, it improves freight capacity on this junction, which means that that's fewer HGVs on the road, which means that the roads are safer, they're getting smashed to bits less stress for drivers getting caught behind them. So really it's a win not just for people on the railway, but also people in cars and relying on goods being moved around the country as well. Tim looks absolutely enthused by all of this. He's very excited.
Thank you.
So the East Coast upgrade, as I might well describe elsewhere in the video if I haven't already, is like a massive series of works. A lot of these, I'll point out, were planned by British Rail through the 80s and early 90s, but anyway, lots of them are eventually coming to fruition. We've had King's Cross's, the King's Run Cross project, massive remodelling, total remodelling in fact, of the King's Cross station throat for several miles out of the station. We had turn back at Stevenage. And we had, even before that, we had other projects that are really part of this ongoing upgrade of the East Coast Main Line. If you like, it's a route modernisation by stealth. So you had, a good example is my first ever design that I opened up the design tools on, which was Hitchin Flyover. So that's, in fact, I'm showing you that right now. Hitchin Flyover, which is south of here, where I am now, because it's the editing. But all these projects are all about, particularly Hitchin is an example of exactly what Werrington was all about. It's great separation of a junction. I can't remember how much Hitchin was, probably a couple of $100 million. Werrington's 250 million. So these are major capital expenditures, major projects, bold engineering schemes to essentially provide high-speed segregation. And this kind of comes back to what HS2 provides, is that even with all this high-speed segregation, each of these projects, 200 million, 250, 300, even 400 million pounds a pop. Ely North Junction is another critical one. It's not on the East Coast Main Line, but it's required to free up capacity on the East Coast Main Line, actually. And that is, wiggly, that's at least 400 million, plus a huge project. To get what HS2 provides, you need to do, every junction needs to be like this. and even then they aren't providing the capacity release that you can achieve through total high-speed segregation. But these are miniature high-speed segregation projects, all of them, ensuring that there's different types of train not conflicting with other different types of train. In the case of Werrington, it's mostly about slow freights crossing over the path of the fast lines, as I'm going to show you in a minute, because I'm going to hop off at Peterborough on my way back north to York, and I'm going to sort of go up to the end of the platform and kind of explain what's going on, and hope we might even see a freight train on its way through. So I've come to the northern end of Peterborough. The platform's at Peterborough Station. You can see behind there. There's Peterborough Station. It's absolutely glorious, if slightly nippy, evening this Thursday. And the reason I've come up here is to sort of try and explain the problem, and with the benefit of some lovely cab footage, which hopefully I'll be getting from LNER. If not, we'll make it work. In that direction is a lot of point work. There's a lot of junction work, lots of crossovers. In fact, I can show you now some footage of a GBRF freight train coming out of their depot over there and crisscrossing over the fast lines to get onto these lines behind me, the lines disappearing off in the other direction, heading back onto the JNG. This is an incredibly busy freight corridor. And whilst it's not so bad that freight trains are kind of slowly coming in and out of the depot over there, because that's not happening very frequently. What was an issue before the Werrington Diveunder was built was that you had this complex ladder of services, a complex ladder of junction work, point work, and you had, one or two freight trains an hour in each direction, weaving across very slowly. There's a nice local service. Weaving across very slowly over that point work and blocking the fasts for multiple minutes every hour, which is clearly a massive hit to line capacity, particularly for the freight, the fast services whizzing through, and of course a limitation on the freight, because you can't have any more of those freights because they block the fasts for so long. So what Werrington has enabled is that the freight trains come in behind me and they essentially stay off the fasts. They disappear off down through the Diveunder, off onto the lines in towards Lincolnshire. Happy days. So that's what it's all about, really. And you can see that quite nicely from here. It's a nice view back towards. Werrington's only a couple of miles up in that direction, but actually, as I was saying, kind of as we were on the train earlier, the actual physical work, lots of the work, the signalling, the power, sort of all the cabling work was happening down here. Also, if I flip over here and look behind me, you can see over here that there is also behind me over here is what is like the biggest flipping signal in the country. Good grief. Ancillary civils, you're getting overexcitable. Over here you can see there's a load of S&C still sort of placed here. Peterborough points 1234, 1232 Bravo, 1233 Alpha. You can see them over there. Look, it's nice, isn't it? And indeed, so those are the switch units, and over there are the crossing panels for clearly there's junction work still to go in. In fact, when I was at Atkins, we were working on some of the junction remodelling around here, so there's lots of complicated stuff going on. Now, it'd be nice if a freight train kind of whizzed through with kind of at speed, but I've taken loads, not loads, I stood here for about 15 minutes and a huge amount of freight came through, so I've got some nice footage of some freight trains whizzing through, kind of showing how busy a line this is. It really is very busy. This is the East Coast Main Line, and it's on, this is why HS2's eastern leg was so critical, and I keep banging this drum, because the East Coast Main Line is such a heavily used freight line that relying on it to also carry all of the long distance high speed stuff is not a very good use of it's not a very good use of capacity. It's not a very good use of infrastructure to carry the most people and things that we can on the railway. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling here at Peterborough. I'm sure either I have already or will explain what actually happened, the physical work that happened at Werrington, how it all worked. Might even splice in some of my little mobile phone videos I've done when I've been passing it on the train over the last couple of years. So before we hop in the cab for our return journey through the Werrington Diveunder, I thought I'd drag us kicking and screaming south to Hitchin, back to Hitchin again. Back to my first time on the tools. You might be wondering why I was on the tools when the project was starting before I joined the industry kind of full time. Well, it's because actually I was jumping on the tools after it had been built to do some as-built kind of fettling. It's a long story. Anyway, Hitchin. So you can see here, Hitchin. Here's the Hitchin, and it's the same sort of story as up at Peterborough. You've got the station. You've got a big, complicated sort of load of junction work with trains having to kind of make their way across, sort of like that, and then disappear off. So the freight trains kind of doing that, and likewise, same in the opposite direction, and that basically means it's stopping the fast trains. The fast trains are having to kind of be held at signals to allow this to happen, and it's blocking the lines for lots and lots of minutes. So what do they do? Well, as you can see, the jump forwards to March 2012, and you can see a load of nice kind of groundwork here, in fact, going right the way down. You see there's a load of kind of excavation work, probably collecting soil. I dare say there's some borrow pits and stuff, generally just to sort of provide the earth to actually raise the land here, because rather than going underneath, they went over the top. So jump forwards again to August 2013, and you can see pretty much, I think, the work was finished by that point. I picked up the design about a year later, so maybe this is still just ballast and they haven't put the track down. In any case, you can sort of pretty much see the line. It's much more of an open, whereas Werrington is much closer to the existing alignment. There was more space and the geology was more favourable, so they could have this slightly more wide sweeping sort of flyover shape. There it is, going like that. Very nice. So then, if we hop forward to 2016, it's well and truly established, and you can sort of see what's happening. So rather than getting snarled up in the junction work here, the freight trains, going in whichever direction they're going, they stay away from the fast. They don't spoil, get in with the way the fast trains. The passenger services, they whiz over the top of the East Coast Main Line, climbing up over the flyover, and then come on down and rejoin the SBR lines towards Cambridge, to just get snarled up at Shepperth Branch Junction, which thankfully will be getting fixed, and then definitely snarled up at Ely North Junction. But this is the way that when you solve a bottleneck, what you do is you result in the next bottleneck becoming the problem. But anyway, you can see here what's happening. Thanks to there being a nice sort of bridge over the East Coast Main Line there, and that was really the difference at Hitchin rather than at. So here's the flyover. The tracks leading to the flyover. The flyover actually starts from here to about here, I think. So that whole structure it's a pretty unique bit of civil engineering, but that's another story. That's the flyover itself, and then those are the lines. Anyway, the whole point of that is exactly the same at Werrington. It's a grade separation, except that rather than at Werrington where it was a dive under, in this case it's a flyover. Yeah, there it is, looking quite spectacular. It's nice structure. And as engineers, we go through a lot of work to decide, optioneering between, right, is it going to go over, is it going to go under, what are the pressures? At Hitchin, they didn't have the Stamford lines, which meant there was a narrow formation, but they also didn't have lines to divert round. So, the different pressures, different, the environmental issues, the residents, where their properties, all these things influence whether we go up or whether we go down.
Direct LNER service to Swindon.
So this is exciting. LNER, thanks to everyone who's let this happen, LNER have let me sit in the rear cab. My hands are here, I'm not touching anything. All I've got is those, when you walk over a bridge and you feel like you're going to jump off it, all I've got is don't press the big red button, which by the way is right behind me. But the good thing about this is we're going to get a view out the back as we go through. It's totally bleached out, but I'm going to put in some better footage. We're going to have a fantastic view out the back of the train as we go through, as we actually drop down under the East Coast Main Line fast lines through the dive under, which is going to be very exciting. So looking forward to that.
Flooding events that significantly affected the production of the project. We then also had in early 2020 the arrival of COVID-19, which caused us significant challenges. A lot of our tunnelling workforce who were busy creating the tunnels that were the guideways to the islands, and they were very concerned about being able to get back to their families. So we had to make a difficult decision to curtail and stop some of the tunnelling activities as the nation went into its first lockdown. And that created some real engineering challenges around managing the settlement around the tunnels. But we were able to get up and running quite quickly again once we introduced some new safe ways of working.
remarkable scenes there. So not dry eye in the house, I think it's fair to say. Gareth, I can see tears rolling from your eyes. How does that make you feel, Gareth?
I'm just so pleased and happy. Look, it's Tim, and the reason I've done this inside King's Cross is because if we rotate round,
Do I look very,
what are these doors that are over just behind your head there, Tim?
Oh, look how tired I look. That's because I've been up since 6:30 doing green screen stuff for other videos. I'm very tired.
Oh, Tim, I know, I'm sorry. Look,
That was
what
a
are
great
those
trip.
little doors behind you? Those little doors. You've been up in those doors.
That door just, hang on, there. Right, and go up there, go up. Where's it go? Go up
That's
there.
it, and then it keeps going up, and it keeps going up.
There's a little window up there, and it goes all the way up into the clock tower, and so it goes up into the turret.
Sort of
and
see
then
above us.
You go up some like
It's
ladders
hidden.
and wooden staircases at the very top. It's
Brilliant. It is brilliant.
I got inside that clock on my it was my 3rd day making television of that series, and I almost cried in that.
It was joyous.
Lovely
Oh,
day.
right. Anyway,
Anyway, that was a really good trip, and we learned an awful lot about Werrington and the importance of the upgrade for passengers, because we all talk about this stuff, you know, like train nerds, but it isn't about us, and it isn't about what we want, it isn't about engineering really. Well done to engineers, it's their day, but for the rest of us, this is where it all begins. Look, I'm wearing that little pin badge in honour of all the engineers. You see, look, there you go, look. But it's all about now us as passengers and what we get to. You can't see what I'm saying because
it's fine. I mean, people can hear it, and I'm mic'd up. Look, I'm mic'd up here, look, so they can hear you quite nice and clearly.
Oh, there's a hamster.
Yeah,
Right.
look. No, it's the best engineering is when it's not noticed, right? It's seamless and unnoticeable. Anyway, Tim, thanks so much. It's been nice to spend
I'm
the
here
morning
for a
with you.
wee now, so I'm this way.
Right, likewise. Let's go. And there we have it. So as ever, thanks very much to our audio-only listeners. Rail Natter continues to be available on all good podcasting platforms. I've no idea how this one will work. A lot of noise, but they'll be fine. Support me to do more of these. I mean, you know, it takes these edited ones. They're fun, but they do take about a day to put together. So your support is always welcome. Essentially, you're paying my day rate to do it, and justifying my time to put them together, since I do also have a day job. Patreon.com/Gareth Dennis. Your support is always welcome. The merch from Masket, masket.co.uk/collection/railnatter. This is just for your own fun. I don't turn a profit from that. It's just that they're good fun, and also make suggestions if you want. If you have nonsense that I say that you'd like to stick on a mug, or you think that we could have a different image for the background of the mask, I don't know. Let me know, and we'll make it happen. PayPal.me/Gareth Dennis if you just want to chuck loose change at me or say something mean. And GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord is where the chat that's been happening now. Hello, everyone in the chat. All that chat happens relentlessly in the Discord, so go and watch and enjoy and get stuck in. And also, if you're a Patreon person, you can go in there and tell me to do things. It's your right. So, update on the live episode with all profits going to York LGBT Forum. Obviously, it's still a bit up in the air with the COVID situation. So I've the first 20 tickets, the first tranche of 20 tickets, have gone. They've sold out immediately, far quicker than I was expecting, to be honest. But yeah. So what I'll do is I'm going to play it by ear. Now I know that it's gone so quickly, I reckon I can probably fill a slightly larger venue. So that slightly changes things from my mind as well. But it will be on. If all goes to plan, it will be on Saturday, the 22nd of January, 2022. So fingers crossed, because it'd be really good fun to see you all. All of those have booked tickets, and then so I think 20 tickets have gone out. I'll probably put another 20 up, possibly more, depending on the venue. We'll see. I need to twist some people's arms and remind them it's for charity. Anyway, right, more of that later. Next week's episode, it's a sort of a holiday. It's like a live Christmassy special. Episode 93, the official Rail Natter Top 10 Classic Railway Films. We're going to go through all of these railway films, and it'll be fun, and we'll laugh, and you'll tell me that I've made a dreadful error in the order that I've put them in, but we'll do a countdown. It'll be like an official UK top 40 countdown. I'll put my very best... who's doing it when I can't even remember. Who was doing top 10s when I used to listen to it. It's gone. Anyway, we're going to count down and see what I think the best classic railway film is. So join in for that. That should be good fun. It only really remains for me to sort of shout cheerio at you, really. Yeah, have fun. Cheerio, everyone. Cheerio.